I'll just start. Good morning, everybody. Very warm welcome to all of you. I know it's raining today, and sorry you have to come all the way here to attend this talk. Please, from the Singapore Environment Institute, your MC for today. Some of you might know this. Singapore Environment Institute, or SEA in short, is the Training and Knowledge Division of the National Environment Agency. And since 2004, we have been organizing a series known as Professional Sharing Series, or PSS in short. Over 50 eminent experts, academics, policy leaders, industry experts have spoken at this platform. And this is one of our knowledge sharing platforms that will seek to promote the dynamic exchange of environmental information and knowledge among NEA staff, industry professionals, or colleagues from public sector, businesses, and academics. I think by now we know that half of humanity, that is about 3.5 billion people, listen to this today. Energy demand, air quality, waste management, water issues are some of the many challenges faced by cities. However, there are also opportunities for cities to rise to the occasion and meet challenges, balance with various needs, and of course, step off on a path on an environmental path for the future generations to come. I think all of us know Sydney City. I do not need to introduce Sydney City itself, but you will not be aware that the City Council itself is actually the first City Council in Australia to be certified carbon neutral. The city has also set forth this Sustainable Sydney Vision 2030 to make the city as green, global, and connected as possible. Today, we have with us Mr Chris Derksema, the Sustainable Director and the City Council. He manages a multidisciplinary team responsible for developing and implementing policies, strategies, and programs to improve the environmental performance of the council's populations and the community. He's also the very man who has been through the development and right now the implementation of the strategy, which includes the development of the Green Infrastructure Master Plan. He's no stranger to conferences and seminars, saying maybe the second or third time he's visiting Singapore. He has experience in green building design, environmental management systems, process engineering, and waste management. He's also the recipient of the Vincent Fairfax Leadership and Ethics Award. Given that he has been through the various stages of developing and implementing the vision, I think this is a very good opportunity for us to interact with him later on. So without further ado, let's welcome Chris.
Morning all. Just so I know who's in the audience, have we who here works for government? And then private industry? Okay, so we'll go quite a good mix actually. I'm going to start off where we started, probably quite a number of years ago. Development of Sustainable City 2030 was a very big task for the city. It was the largest engagement the city had ever undertaken. It was probably took a good 18 months of talking with industry, talking with residents, talking with business, talking with other government departments, talking to more and talking to more. And from that we got a very strong consensus actually. This was probably back in 2006, so it was a time when environment was very high on the agenda, and we got a very strong agreement from all those different stakeholders that they really wanted to see significant and urgent action on climate change. And as part of that, we set a new greenhouse gas reduction goal, which is 30% reduction by 2030 based on 2006 levels. Now, I know that the IPCC and others always use 1990 as their baseline and go to 2050. We picked numbers that we thought people could better understand. 2006, people actually knew what the city was like in 2006, and we've chosen the same trajectory as what we would have been if we were in 1990 down to 2050. So this is online with the 80% by 2050. Quite interesting though, I suppose, with the recent, over the last couple of years, the new IPCC data, probably that we might have to even make this target even slightly next time we revise the target. So 70% reduction. At the time, we did some really preliminary work about how do we go about achieving our overall target. And this is what we call our waterfall chart. And on the left-hand side there, we have our 2006 emissions, and then we have business as usual, what we predicted business as usual to be in 2030. And then we have a suite of actions that we thought we could implement to get us down to the target of 70% reduction. And so you'll see there on the left-hand side of the tick is decentralised energy through tri-generation, and I'll talk more about that. We have waste to energy, a suite of energy efficiency technologies there, lighting technologies, minimum energy performance standards, car parking reductions actually in the city, which is minimises the amount of ventilation and lighting required in the city, transport issues, renewable energy, and then finally a housing strategy. If you live in the city of Sydney, you will have an inherently lower footprint than if you live out in the suburbs, out in rural metro cities. The thing here to note that we were very honest about is that we set the target based on the environmental outcome that we thought we were obligated to achieve. You know, the ethical, what's the right thing to do, and that was the 70% reduction. These are all the actions that we could put down on paper, pragmatic actions that we thought we were going to take, and that meant that we had a deficit. So we were really honest about saying all the things that we know that we can do now, that we can actually afford, that are implementable. If we did all of them, we're still going to be falling short of the target. And that was quite a tough kind of a thing for a politician, our Lord Mayor, to go and talk about publicly. But what it's done is really instilled a value of every time we do a project, every time we run a program, you know, every time we spend an hour of effort on some particular issue, we need to squeeze every last kilogram of carbon out of that project. And it's really made us I suppose aware of the magnitude of the problem as well. We, I suppose in simple terms, take a three-pronged approach to sustainability. We want to lead by example. We need to green council operations. We need to help the community to do the same, so that's all the residents, the businesses and the stakeholders in the city, the visitors as well. And then finally, transformation change through green infrastructure. I'm just going to talk about the second one first of all, which is just helping the community to do the same. And I should say, before I get on to this, Sustainable City 2030, I talked a little bit about the engagement. It is not just an environment strategy. It is actually at its core probably more a livable city economic development strategy. It has 10 major directions, and they cover everything from social, cultural, economic, also technology, and it's a big broad suite of objectives within that Sustainable City 2030 strategy. I'm responsible for the environment part of that, and also the green part of green, global and connected. Global, green is supposed to be not only green from its environmental performance, but also green as a city. Just like, I suppose, you know, we've really taken heed of what's happening here in Singapore. I think you've done a fantastic job of physically greening your city with the plants and trees and the canopy coverage, and so we've now been setting canopy coverage targets and that's something for Sydney as well. So greening the city, global in terms of its competitiveness economically, global in terms of its outlook as well, and connected socially, connected economically, connected with other cities as well. So I suppose it's a very easy cash cow green global initiative, but it was something that people could remember and relate to. When we do our, I suppose, planning around what are we going to do with the community, this is some of the cornerstone information that we use. So these are sort of the carbon emissions, the water emissions and the waste of the different sectors that we have in the city of Sydney. So you can see there that from a carbon emissions perspective, small and large businesses make up a major component of our greenhouse gas footprint, almost 3/4 or so. Residential is quite, probably around 10%. Then we've got transport, which I think is about 7%, and waste is about 5%. Now, for people often ask, well, why is transport so low? You know, Sydney really good at it. It's not necessarily that we are so good at transport, it's that the energy source that we have for business is so bad. You know, we are predominantly a coal-fired electricity network. I'll talk about that in a minute. From a water perspective,